Well, good morning, church. Thank you for continuing our deep dive. Today we're in Genesis chapter 17, verses 1 to 8. I think a very pivotal passage. If we go back in the narrative of Genesis, we first see him arriving the last of chapter 11. And then in chapter 12, we see God calling Abram and saying, "You will be a father of a great nation." And he believes God. He leaves his land, his relatives, and he goes to journey where God tells him, "I will make you a great nation and I will give you a great land." Well, so much has happened since then. And at this point, Abram is now 99 years old, and he's still not yet had that son of promise. And yet God readdresses, I think God encourages him, again saying many of the things he said before, but doing something special that will change Abraham forever. He says this, he says, "I'm changing your name. It will no longer be Abram. Instead, you will be called Abraham. For you will be the father of many nations, and I will make you extremely fruitful. Your descendants will become many nations, and kings will be among them." See, I think this is significant because one, I think it's, he's been on this task for all these years, 24 years, and has been through so much. And just for God to speak to him again, to say, "Hey, listen, I haven't forgot you." See, interesting, the name Abram meant exalted father. So you can imagine all these years that as Abram is around, people are saying, "Oh, exalted father, tell me about your kids." He's like, "Well, don't have any kids yet." And so the name itself was almost a rebuke to who he was. And now God says, "I'm changing your name. No longer you're going to be exalted father. Now you're going to be the father of multitudes." I mean, you can imagine Abraham going back and saying, "Now call me Abraham." And they're looking, "Father of many nations? Really?" It was faith. It was God seeing him not for where he was, but where he's going to be. And to me, that's so significant. We're so stuck at measuring ourselves where we are. And God doesn't see us just where we are. God sees us where we can be. That's why later, Jacob, his name will be changed to Israel. Again, the significance from going to being a deceiver to one who fights with God, and one who really has God fighting for him. He no longer fights for his own blessings, but God now fights for those blessings for him. Or Peter, who again was, little pebble, and named Simon, little pebble. Christ changed his name to Peter, which is big rock, upon which I will build my church. And it's so significant that we see ourselves one way, but I think God sees us far more significant than we see ourselves. I think we see ourselves so limited. We think, what could I do? How could God use me? And we see events. Maybe we talk to one person about Christ, or do we do one thing and we think, what impact does that really make? I think of an evangelist. His name was Mordecai Ham, and he came back from a revival that he had done in North Carolina. And his wife asked, "Well, how was the revival?" And he goes, "Not very good. Just two snotty-nosed teenage boys accepted Christ the whole week." One of those snotty-nosed teenage boys turned out to be Billy Graham. When Mordecai Ham looks back at his impact, I'm sure he sees that 1 week of revival totally different than he did at the moment it happened. And see, guys, God sees us so much different. We're trapped into how the world sees us, or even how we see ourselves. And God sees our potential. God sees the impact we can make. God sees you so vital that he gave the life of Christ that you could have a relationship with him. And I just want you to know you're significant to God. And God can use you to have an eternal impact on the lives of others just by loving on people, just by connecting to Christ, by being the witness that he's called you to be, by impacting the ones that he has strategically placed in your world, family, neighbors, friends, others that are there, that to them you may be the only Bible they ever read, the only church they ever attend, to hopefully one day you can connect them to Christ. Guys, you are significant to God. Abraham, from this point on, for the rest of the Bible, we're not going to call him Abram. We're going to call him Abraham, father of multitudes. And when we say that name, we look back and it's fulfilled prophecy. It's fulfilled. Well, it's a fulfilled event that has happened. But from Abraham, it was still faith looking forward. Guys, thanks so much for being part of our daily Devo. I hope you continue with us, and you guys have a blessed day.